Hello and welcome to the Meaning Project podcast. I am your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz. As always, thank you for this opportunity to allow me to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning into your day. Please forgive me if my voice sounds a little off today. Woke up, I don't know, a little nasally, little something going on here, but that's that time of year where we have things, viruses, back to whatever, sickness floating around the Midwest. So hopefully I'm coming through to you loud and clear, and I appreciate this opportunity to chat with you a little bit about topics in mental health and meaning. Today's topic came to me this week while running a substance abuse group for some gentlemen that I work with, and part of that curriculum we talk about sources of meaning-based happiness. Now, we live in a world today that tries to sell us and market us happiness at every turn. I made the mistake the other day of turning on some network television. Do you remember back in the day when that was the only way to watch anything on TV, was either networks or cable? And they learned that they could use advertisement in network TV to really compel us to purchase and consume and make us believe that we really had to have certain things to be happy, whether it was cars or products. And now today, what I noticed, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, is not only are we marketed to on a constant basis, whether it's TV, internet, computer, smartphone, but what we are marketed is this idea that we must be happy. And if you're not happy, if you're too sad, too worried, too concerned, too stressed in life, if you're not feeling optimally, positively, toxically happy, we've got a pill for that. And that's what I noticed when I turned on some network TV is, my goodness, we have a lot of pills for that. But what I want to talk to you about today is this idea that, and if you've been listening to this podcast, here we are into the 40s of episodes, and you've surely heard me talk about some more meaning-based opportunities just for life in general. The good Dr. Frankl says that we shouldn't pursue success or happiness, that they must ensue, they must come from, be derived from meaning-based activities. So I'll go through this quick list here with you. Hopefully you're enjoying it on your drive to work or on a nice run. And maybe you can put some of these to work for you today. So sources of meaning-based happiness. One of the very first ones is simply having a positive affect. Now, affect is just a fancy psychological way of saying mood, right? Emotions, the combination of mood and emotions. Having positive affect. We're not always in charge of the first emotion to come into our mind, the first thought or impulse, but we are always in charge of where we take that. We are always responsible. We have the opportunity to impact our mood and our emotions and our affect by what we do and what we think on a daily, hourly, minute by minute basis, right? So if you're feeling low or feeling down or angry or frustrated, you always have an opportunity to change that and make it more positive by simply looking at the positive things you have in life, looking at gratitude, or being appreciative for where you are and what you're doing, for being mindful for the good things that are going on in your life. Yes, life sometimes throws us a curveball, but we always have the opportunity to choose to be positive and to have that positive affect. And when we make that choice, that can generate meaning-based happiness, right? Another source of meaning-based happiness, achievement, striving and attaining worthy goals in life. We often talk about the idea that in struggle and suffering, we can make that into achievement. We can turn difficulties in life into achievement. But what about just doing good things for yourself, right? Whether that's, I don't know about you, sometimes just finishing a book can be an achievement, or taking a course, or learning something new, or we're in the season of New Year's resolutions and goals. Getting to that point where you run that first mile, or even more so, get to that first 5K, or plan for a marathon. Achievement is a very positive source of meaning-based happiness, right? So we have the opportunity to change our mood and our affect into a positive one. but also to seek opportunities to achieve. Relationships, healthy, positive relationships, relating well to others in our home, in our family, in our work life, in our community, can be a source of meaning-based happiness. Just having positive relationships. And if you feel you don't, that's an opportunity to go out and seek those opportunities. I know when I moved to the current location where we live, we left suburban life and moved, as you've heard me say, to a much more rural place, where we're separated from our nearest neighbor in some ways. Previously, it was really easy just to go next door, knock on the neighbor's door and introduce yourself and, have a cup of coffee and talk about life in the suburbs. And here it was a little different. And I remember consciously seeking out opportunities to cultivate relationships. A lot of my friends were left back in that old community, and I had to be intentional about doing that. For me, and I've shared this with many people in my office, uh, it was seeing what my kids were doing in school or in sports and becoming involved with that. And many of my friends here still today are people I coached with when my kids were coming up through sports. So relationships, finding positive, healthy relationships and relating well to those people can be a source of meaning-based happiness. Along with that is intimacy, right? Now, when we talk about intimacy in the counseling world, that often refers to sex. And I'm not talking about that here for meaning-based happiness, although that can be a source. But when we talk about intimacy, we talk about relationships a step above those typical relationships in our community, those close friends or family, those people you would consider to be your best friends or your partner or your spouse, right? Having healthy, intimate relationships can definitely be a source of meaning-based happiness. And if those closest relationships are not healthy, working to achieve healthiness in those relationships is an opportunity for meaning, but also a necessary step in making sure those relationships are healthy. So positive affect, achievement, relationship, and intimate relationships, all sources of meaning-based happiness. Those are, well, some of those are somewhat external, but a really important one is acceptance. Now, it was interesting. When I think of acceptance, I think of feeling accepted by oneself, being at peace with oneself and the world, right? Just that acceptance. But one of the gentlemen in group this week said, what about just accepting life as it is, recognizing that, good and bad come of every day, but just being able to roll with that and accept it. I thought, that's a really good way of looking at it. So having self-acceptance, but also acceptance of the world. And in the local therapy, we talk about that, right? Recognizing that pain, death, and suffering are all a part of what we go through as human beings, and be able to accept that and maybe even turn it into achievement, but at least choosing a positive attitude, that positive affect, to be able to roll with life's difficulties and to embrace its joys. Next, excuse me, we have religion and or spirituality, right? A personal relationship with, as we say in logotherapy, as Dr. Frankl says, a personal relationship with the ultimate, right? For some people, for many people in our culture, that's God, but it may come in different forms, as in nature or the cosmos, or just that recognition that we don't always fully understand or know everything, right? That there is something greater than ourselves out there. And this is often a difficult conversation for some people. For those that have religion or were brought up in a religion, sometimes it's a little bit easier, but there may be difficulty in that too. Maybe religion can be corrupted sometimes to be controlling or manipulative. And so in that, we may defer to spirituality in just that sense that there is something else out there. I remember Dr. Frankl writing, and I believe it was Man's Search for Meaning, or maybe multiple books, his belief. Now, he was raised Jewish. Obviously, he was in the concentration camps of World War II. But his second wife, after his first wife passed away in the concentration camp, his second wife was Roman Catholic. And she was an instrumental part of his life and his work. And I believe they fused a lot of their ideas together when it comes to religion. And he believed that we are all on this unique and personal journey to understand what spirituality is. And that sometimes for many of us, religion can be a way of expressing that. Now, of course, many of us, have our own issues with religion and may, that may transfer over to spirituality. But I'll step outside of the logotherapy realm and just say that, most research in the past few decades will indicate that people with a sense of spirituality and maybe a religion to express that are generally healthier and more well by many measures than people that don't. So it is a source of meaning-based happiness, but it can also be a source of health and just general well-being. So positive affect, having a positive mood, achievement, relationships and intimate relationships, acceptance of self and acceptance of life's ups and downs, and then a sense of religion or spirituality are all sources of meaning-based happiness. The last two are a little bit more ethereal, maybe. Well, I don't know. We've talked about this one before, self-transcendence, one of the ultimate sources of meaning-based happiness, even achievement, right? Stepping outside of oneself to serve or to help others. That, in my mind, is the ultimate source of happiness, of meaning, right? When we do for others selflessly, when we maybe perhaps lose ourselves in helping others. I feel very fortunate. You've heard me say this before, very blessed in that that's my job. I am so fortunate to be able to do these kinds of things on a daily basis, to sit in my office and to help others, to get up in front of crowds or groups or audiences to speak about mental health and meaning. Some of us have to work extra hard to find those opportunities to step outside this ourselves. Again, another story from that group where I was reminded of these. A gentleman said there was one day where he saw a poor elderly woman walking down the road with her groceries and struggling to get across the street from point A to point B and get them to where she needed to. And so he said, you know what, I got off my motorcycle, I parked it there right on the side of the road and got out and helped her. And I just thought that was a beautiful example of how people can do transcendent acts today. So if you are not currently feeling like you have an opportunity to lose yourself in serving others, I am sure wherever you are, there are volunteer opportunities to be able to do that. If that's not in your daily work, fine. Well, you know what? I'm going to argue that no matter what you do in your daily work, I think there's probably an opportunity to step outside yourself and help somebody else. But of course, there are also opportunities that you can find and cultivate in different volunteer situations. Finally, our last source of meaning-based happiness, at least in this list. And it's funny in this list and the list that I have, but you know what? If you have other sources of meaning-based happiness, I would be happy for you to share them, whether you found this on YouTube or on the podcast or social media. Share with others. What is it that brings you meaning-based happiness? But the last one on this list is simply fairness or justice. Being treated fairly and treating others with fairness is a source of meaning-based happiness. Knowing that there's just a sense of right and wrong in the world and that we opt for right. Okay. So to summarize, positive affect, feeling satisfied with life, achievement, striving and attaining worthy goals, relationship and intimate relationships, relating well to others in our community, but also having a close circle of family and friends, acceptance and being at peace with oneself, religion and spirituality, self-transcendence, fairness and justice. These are all sources of meaning-based happiness that you can take with you and put into your day to seek these opportunities in your day. Again, as Dr. Frankl said, one of my favorite quotes is that we cannot pursue happiness, but it must ensue. It follows from our choices to seek meaning-based activities. As always, it has been my pleasure to bring this little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. To find out more about me and what I'm doing or where I might be speaking or to work together at some point, you can find out all of that information on danielafranz.com. That's DANIELAFRANZ.com. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It is my sincerest pleasure to bring this information to you. Thank you for the opportunity to do just a little bit of self-transcendent work in my day. Take care.